So Trina Hamilton is the Director of Executive Development and Coaching at Refinery Leadership Partners, and she's going to be presenting the leader's role in getting and keeping talent. So these are practical approaches for leaders just like you to help support a workforce that is diverse, engaged, and future ready. So Trina, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Erica. It's great to be here. I'm quite excited. My heart's pounding, and I think part of it is because I'm speaking, but part of it is just the excitement of being in this community and hearing what's happening. Carrie, when I was just about to graduate from high school and I went to my guidance counselor, I said I wanted to go into policing, and he recommended secretarial or teaching as well. So I'd love to say we've come a long way, but the movement is still growing, and it's just a thrill to be part of it. Refinery works a lot in mining and oil and gas, as well as other industries and tech, finances, et cetera. So we cross a lot of spectrums when it comes to leadership and the change required of leaders in our organizations right now. And that's really what I want to be speaking to. As I was preparing for this, I was really gathering a lot of empathy for people who are coming into the workplace, a lot of stories like Carrie's, but also leaders who are currently in the system, who have been working in the system for their careers, and what it means for them to be part of this change. So first, a little bit around the context of a transforming industry, which has its own issues, its own challenges, but also this pipeline, this crisis that we have in the pipeline. So you think about, just from a stats perspective, according to mining.com in 2023, half of US mining industry employees are going to be retiring before 2029. And here in Canada, we expect to see 80,000 new positions needing to be filled by the end of 2025. So there is a glut in the workforce, and it's looming. It's going to get even bigger. Meantime, we've got a dwindling pipeline. So we have less new and young people wanting to enter the workforce for reasons that Carrie mentioned earlier. So enrollments are lessening in the industry, low uptake in diverse hiring, women, diversity, new Canadians, new Americans. And then on top of all of that is, with the new workplace coming in, the new workforce coming in, is just a shift in expectations. So new people coming into the workplace expect things to be different than those of us who grew up in an industry and have gotten used to some traditional practices. So millennials, Gen Zs, they are looking for career decisions that align with their values, that align with their purpose. They want to bring meaning into the work that they're doing. And they're seeking a level of friendliness. So not top-down command and control, but a level of relational experience in the roles that they take on. So that's a change. A big change that we're seeing is a need for psychological safety in the workplace. And that allows for the person, a diverse workforce, to bring in their whole being, of course. It also sets us up for safety in the workplace. The notion that I'm psychologically safe enough to bring my perspective, my voice to the table, say what I'm seeing, all of that has a consequence as well. And then skill gaps. So new skills needing to come into the industry: innovation, technology, AI, robotics, sustainability, all of that is changing. So that's the context. And we have a number of leaders who've been in an industry for most of their careers, and they're looking, perhaps they're in the gray tsunami, they're looking to retire in the next 2 to 5 years. And we're actually asking them to make some fundamental changes in how they lead. And from a personal perspective, when you think about leaders who are already in the industry, we're telling them basically that how you got to where you are is not going to work now and into the future. So there's this personal shift that needs to happen in leadership that we're seeing, not just in the mining industry, but across all industries. When you think about the mining industry, these people have come in with a very concrete, tactile experience. When you think about innovation, technology, AI, new forms of sustainability, all of that becomes more ambiguous. And so leadership changes. We don't know the answers to future problems as we did in the past. Things are less binary, less certain. So we're dealing with a lot of tension between even the day-to-day operations, making sure that things are flowing, and the future needs of the organization. So there's this, from a leader perspective, leaders are needing to stand between the notion of keeping things going right now, and we often say building the plane as it's flying. We also need to be thinking about innovation. Two different mindsets needed for both. So what we need are leaders within the organization to learn how to build team cultures, almost microcultures within the organizations that will support the new workforce that's coming in. Organizations can do all they can to, and we're going to be hearing from experts later on about recruiting and PR. We can attract a new workforce to the industry. But if individual leaders aren't transforming how they lead, we're not going to be able to keep and sustain that workforce. So that's vital. The other thing that we need to be thinking about are then the capabilities. So what needs to change for leaders? And we see it at Refinery. A lot of the work that we do, we really start with the self. So this is a transition from how traditional leaders have learned to lead. We're thinking about the work that needs to be done. We're thinking about operations. We're thinking about the day-to-day. But with a relational workforce coming in, and with the need for psychological safety so that people can bring more of themselves and innovate and think strategically, we need leaders to better understand themselves. So we're doing a lot of work at Refinery where we start with self-awareness and social awareness, almost empathetic, emotional intelligence within the leadership group. So we're really starting with self first. The leaders in organizations, because of the complexity that they're facing, they cannot be the experts in the room anymore. And that's a real hard thing to swallow when you've been the expert your entire career, when you've had the answers. That's not the case anymore. So I was actually snooping in Peggy Bell's blog and read a blog that she had posted. It's been reposted on LinkedIn. And she said, love it, Peggy. She said, we need to attract more communication to the sector, more communicators to the sector. And I would say that's not just true for bringing experts in communications into the workplace, but it's also required of every leader. So leaders need to become better communicators. She said solving significant challenges, with the talent deficit being just one of them, it means we need to have different points of view. And so leaders need to become collaborators. They need to become connectors. They need to become communicators, so that they can bring more points of view. This is where inclusion and diversity really matters. We need more points of view surfaced so that we can come up with better solutions in the future. Solutions that are required to be different than they've been in the past. This is where all of the entrepreneurs who are on this call really come into play, is because you're thinking differently than we've thought in the past. And we need that in our organizations. So we do a lot of work with leaders, first off, to develop their self-awareness so that they can respond to a complex world instead of reacting to it. And then what we found in our research is that there are 3 key capabilities that every leader needs across the organization. So from supervisors to managers to senior leaders and executives, all leaders need to develop 3 capabilities, and they are strategic alignment. And that's more than just understanding where we're going, but it's understanding where we are right now versus where we're going. And it's not just about cascading goals across the organization. It's really about leaders being able to have conversations that allow employees, the workforce, the people that they work with, people on their team, to sense make where we're going. So to be able to process where we're going versus where we are and have conversations that help us to meaning make who I am in the organization now versus where we're going. So strategic alignment is really about cross collaboration. It's about connection. It's about communication conversations and being willing to maybe not be 100% right in where we think, how we think we need to go forward. Because the more points of view we get in, we can get it onto the table. We can realize that there are more opportunities than we first thought. That's the diverse perspective that we need. Change agility. So strategic alignment, change agility. So this is where self-awareness comes in. This is not just about managing change or leading transformation. This is really about the personal ability for leaders to be able to shift and pivot and change their minds, their mindsets, their approaches, so that they can lean into the opportunities that surface when we start to innovate. Um, Change agility, when you think about the tension for leaders across the organization of being in a current world and also a foot in the future world that we don't really know what it's going to look like, that's a really tough place to stand, because you got the sort of the answers for today, but you don't have the answers for tomorrow, and you're trying to create a compelling story for your workforce of where we're going so that they want to follow you, they want to stay. So a leader's change agility is really important. And the third one, which touches on communication, connection, collaboration, that's really about people-centered practices. So every leader, up to the executive, even the board of organizations, need to become better relationally. They need to become wiser socially. So they need to better understand how to communicate across cultures, across ways of thinking, across different perspectives, in order for them to create better solutions. A quote I heard once was, "Do you want to be right or do you want to be effective?" And it's that people-centered practice that allows leaders to become more effective in what they're doing. Real change from how my generation kind of was honed and grew in leadership was about, you get promoted because you were good at what you did and you knew how to do it. Leadership has changed. It's not like that anymore. And that's true across all industries. So whatever is done, the key is whatever's done at the organizational level. The work that Carla and Helen are going to talk to a little bit later around PR and recruitment, whatever's done there is irrelevant if leaders, especially those who've been in role for a time, if they don't adapt, unlearn ways that they've learned to lead in the past, unlearn that and relearn. If they don't do that, they're not going to be able to support the culture that's needed for the workforce that's coming in. So it's important that even at the executive level, we're talking about talent and culture as part of the strategy. Erica, I've just spewed out a whole bunch of stuff for like 10 minutes. So how's that landing for you? I haven't even had a chance to look at the chat. I'll just pause for a bit.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, Trina. I think you're painting a very compelling picture that I think helps mining leaders, first of all, know they're not alone. I think, I appreciate your perspective on how this is happening across a number of different places. So we do just have a couple more minutes before we move on to Chrissy's time slot, but I'd love to just give you the floor one more time to say thank you, first of all, for laying out those key capacities that need to be generated, and also, some of the changes that you're seeing across the board, especially within mining. So what is something that our audience members could do if they wanted to learn a bit more about the solutions that Refinery offers?
Yeah, come to refineryleadership.com. Basically, reach out to me or anyone on the team. But we really do work to support leaders in the transformation. We were founded by two women 22 years ago, and it was really at that point, it was about changing how leaders are showing up in the workplace. And that's underpinning everything that we do. So it's about leading at every level of the organization and creating alignment in teams, coaching, and consulting from the perspective of change and leadership development. So we're here to support. That's what we've been doing for 22 years. And we really see ourselves as part of the community as well, and part of the movement that Artemis is leading.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad to have Refinery as one of our members. And thank you, Trina, for being here to speak about the great transformational work that you're supporting for mining companies.